Parkour and how we're trying to redefine wellness through movement and self-acceptance. It's about creating community and retaking the word fat back, because in Canada it's literally a curse word. So basically throwing out the rules of fitness in the way that we were taught in elementary school and high school and things like that. So I do have to go through a little bit of a life story, but that's always the fun bit. So I was in the Canadian Armed Forces for 22 years. I served since I was 17 years old, and I went to the Royal Military College. So I was an officer, and I took engineering. So that was the old me. I suffered a traumatic brain injury in 2016 that completely and totally changed my life. I am an entirely different person now. So, in addition to that, I don't know if you guys have ever had a brain injury before, but all of a sudden you get compounding invisible health injuries that show up as well. So I have that too. The military finally decided that they were going to get rid of me in 2020. So yeah, I released during the pandemic. It was a scary time. So during my time in the military, I was an athlete. I played rugby, hockey, softball, and I even took up long distance running. So how do you tell someone's a long distance runner? They tell you. I was that person. Fitness wasn't just an expectation because of my job. Yeah, it was in my job role that I had to stay fit, but it was part of my identity too. And it was a damaging part of my identity. So for me, life has been, since 2016 really, my life has been a series of battles against medical gaslighting, patient profiling, and a healthcare system that has failed me a lot. But things have changed, and now I've found my groove. And I want to spread information and love and acceptance to everyone in the hope that they can find their groove as well. Today, now that I'm out of the military, I'm the face of a brand called Sweet Life Flora. Technically, we were started out as an e-commerce plant shop during the pandemic, but now we've grown to be a collective of like-minded women. There's 3 of us. We're like a best friend collective, and we have a passion for plants, mindfulness, and wellness. And it's morphed from that e-commerce platform. I'm going to be opening a store this year in Moncton, New Brunswick, so it'll be a destination place, guys. Destination place. And we are a fully fledged social media brand now. So we take our love for plants, and then we focus also on mindfulness, physical and mental wellness, as well as disability advocacy. My type of social media account is taking a few things that apply directly to me and then mashing them all together, because you wouldn't believe how many plant enthusiasts are out there who are also fat, who have health issues. We are in community, and believe it or not, the plant community is one of the most accepting communities I've ever been in my entire life. Like, plant community with the fat community together, it's like an intersectional, beautiful community of everyone who gets along, encourages people. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the plant community, because you know when plants grow, you can cut them and you can give them away. So it makes my job a little less fiscally responsible. But so through all of this, me transitioning from the military, having these medical health issues, sprang the idea for Fat Girl Parkour. It's a social and cultural movement that's meant to redefine what it means to be a capable human being. So that's the goal of Fat Girl Parkour. It isn't to get skinnier. It isn't to be able to do parkour. It's to redefine what it means for you to live your life as capably as possible so that you can be happy and have great self-esteem. All right, so yes, hi, I'm Kristen. So I was supposed to do that slide first. All right, so I'm going to go through a little bit more about my health issues, but I do want to put out there that there is a trigger warning here. We're going to be talking about eating disorders, sexual assault, addiction, and health issues. So, trigger warning. I'm going to give people a moment if they want to. All right, so I have faced a cascade of health issues since my brain injury. So first off, I found out I'm autistic, which is something that I would have never guessed. My mom was an early childhood educator, and when I found out I was autistic as an adult, she of course blamed herself. She's like, I didn't see it, I didn't know. Anyways, I have post-concussion syndrome, which we already talked about, and I also have a rare genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm not sure if anybody knows about that, but basically I do not produce collagen properly, so all of my ligaments, tendons, and fascia are like spent elastic, so they just don't come back. I've had 11 surgeries to put my joints back together. I got it from my mom. Again, my mom had no idea until I was diagnosed. And she's action-packed full of stuff that screams EDS, but nobody knew what it was. And because I have EDS, I also have this thing that is the complete reason why I have a handicap parking pass in my car. I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means everyone has it a little bit. So when you stand up too fast, you get dizzy. I have it all the time. I once passed out in a crosswalk. So now I have a handicap pass, so I'm not walking the entire parking lot. And I have post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think any woman that's in the military comes out with PTSD. But so all of these conditions that I had, and towards the end of my career, so I was an officer, I was a major, I was in charge of a whole bunch of people, I was in charge of capital projects that are worth millions of dollars. But because of my brain injury, I destroyed every single relationship that I had at work. I didn't get help until 4 months after my brain injury because the military has a very toxic, sexist, and ableist culture. So saying anything and going to the doctor was incredibly faux pas. You just don't do it. So the military is a very extreme example of a toxic, sexist, ableist culture, but we are seeing it more and more in society as we who have invisible injuries are becoming more vocal. So we are seeing people come out of the woodwork. We've been posting about FATCON, and I've had people come out of the woodwork with negativity and terrible things. We just want to exist. We just want to be. So let's start at the beginning. That's me at military college. Cute. At 17, and I came from a toxic household with a problematic parent. That's my PC way of explaining it. So joining the military for me made sense because I needed to escape. There's statistics that say right now that 40% of new recruits who join the Canadian military join because they have trauma from their home life or they're in danger in their home life. So they join the military because it's the easiest way to escape. The military, though, at a young age of 17, introduced me to socially acceptable underage drinking, toxic ableism, so pain is weakness leaving the body, and a dangerous, sexist, us versus them culture, so female versus male. I was a quota. So the only reason why I was there is because I was a quota. So the next bit is one that I've actually never ever spoken publicly about. I was in the military for 4 months. Again, I was 17 years old, and I was violently sexually assaulted at the military college by someone who I thought was my friend at a sanctioned party. And when you're 17, you are still developing your brain, and then to have something like that happen to you, and I was so scared of the social and implied career implications of reporting that I didn't say anything for 20 years. And the only reason why I did is because the therapist that I had for 5 years, I got comfortable with the therapist. I let myself get comfortable with the therapist, did some testing on me and said, you're kind of ranking high on the sexual assault trauma side of things, and maybe PTSD. I'm like, okay, fine, here it is. But it opening up finally was really, really good for me. I'm actually invited to go to speak in Carleton University about, I guess, PTSD growth, post-diagnosis growth coming up soon. So, yeah, so my brain was developing still. It damaged my physical and mental health. It was a detriment to every single one of my relationships. And I kind of like, I self-loathed a lot, and that gave way to toxic and risky behaviors. So that's photo number one. Photo number two, this is me when I was 32 years old. So, I know I look like a baby still, but at this point I was a recovering alcoholic. I quit cold turkey when I was 26 because I scared myself straight. I got into way too many situations that were like, whew, I could have died, or that could have gone bad. But by taking away alcohol, I lost my mechanism of self-medicating. I didn't know at the time that that was what I was doing, but then I decided to replace alcohol with calorie counting and extreme exercising. So I got down way skinnier than that. I grew fur. I was so small that I grew fur. So I basically replaced blacking out the entire world around me with an obsessive drive for control of my entire environment. I was miserable. So I put up this picture where I look like incredibly happy. I'm about to run a 15-kilometer race as a fairy with a broken arm because my bones are brittle. And I look happy, but I'm not. I'm miserable. And now we move on to the next picture where I'm holding a mini goat. So this is the culmination of things that I had an intervention, not with myself. Someone else had to do it in my mid-30s. So I was experiencing my first complete full-stop injury. I broke my ankle while I was running in the rain. I slipped off a curb. I wasn't paying attention because I was calorie deficient. It was just awful. So while I was waiting for surgery and rehabilitation, that resulted in weight gain and extreme depression. So I started to spiral. I had a very mentally taxing job situation. I was teaching at the military college, and then I also was doing my postgrad at the same time. And I don't have anything in my schedule. I tend to fill it up with as much as possible. But I had a very observant academic supervisor. This supervisor basically sat me down, had an intervention, and gave me an ultimatum. He was like, either I get help, or they're just going to drop me as a postgrad student. Ironically, I had to quit as a postgrad student 3 years later because I got a brain injury. But he literally changed my life. So this is my lesson one for things that got me towards Fat Girl Parkour, is make sure you find someone who holds you accountable. Sometimes that's you, but if it's not, that's okay too. I had to have someone else have an intervention with me, because otherwise I was going down a really bad hole. So against military cultural norms, I went to the mental health department at a military hospital. Now, the goal with having an appointment when you go to the military hospital is to not be seen going in, and then hope and pray that you don't know anybody in the waiting room, because it's shameful. And the military makes you think that. However, in the end, it is the best thing that ever happened to me. So over the past decade, I've made mental health progress leaps and bounds, and now at 44, I am proud to say that I am an incredibly resilient human being, but I would have never gotten here without Dr. Kelly. What I deal with right now, or yes, I deal with it continually, but these were things that were sort of slowing me down in the beginning. So chronic pain, it's my biggest hurdle right now. So because I have all these invisible injuries and things, I always tell people that my normal is about a 4 out of 10 on everybody else's pain scale. but I'm there all the time, so that's normal for me. I have had to readjust my brain to realize that that's my new normal. It impacts people's physical fitness, mental health, and creates a cycle of limitations that create emotional strain. So that's why you have to work really, really closely with your medical team. I have been to, actually one of the best things I did a year ago was I went to a pain clinic. I asked to go to a pain clinic where they taught me that pain is actually in my brain. So the way we interpret pain signals is only in your brain. It's just when you have chronic pain signals, it's like you have a pain processing disorder. So you always have signals that are overreacting, but it's your brain ultimately where that pain comes from. And again, I couldn't have done it without going to that pain clinic, because anytime anybody else said, "Oh, it's all in your head," you're like, "Fuck you! I have an injury. That's where my pain is." But no, it's truly all in your head, and there are ways that you can kind of overcome your chronic pain so that it does sort of become like a plateau rather than this roller coaster. Medical gaslighting. Everyone in here has probably experienced medical gaslighting. And so imagine being in excruciating pain only to be dismissed as being just stressed. Or you're too young to be this sick and disabled. That's my favorite one. I've also dealt with patient profiling. Now, as someone with chronic pain, when you go to the doctor, because I don't have a family doctor, we're in a medical crisis in Canada, and I've moved twice in 2 years, so I do not have a family doctor, and there's a 4-year wait for a family doctor, so I have to go to clinics. I have to go to drop-in clinics. Unfortunately, that creates this situation where doctors take one look at me and they assume that my symptoms are either weight-related, anxiety-related, or even worse, I have been labeled as a drug seeker. Which is stupid because I am violently allergic to opioids. So when they tell me I'm a drug seeker, I'm like, I can't take anything actually. It will kill me. And then finally, I'm not sure, this is sort of like a new term that's been coined recently, is the prescribing cascade. At one point in time, I had 4 different doctors prescribing me medication. A mental health doctor, a neurosurgeon, a family doctor, and another psychiatrist. I had 2 of them. I was really action-packed. I also call it the pharmaceutical avalanche, because what happens is you get prescribed one medication. It leads to side effects. And instead of dealing with that one medication, they give you another medication, and another, and another. So then you're juggling this cocktail of pills, and you're struggling to feel human. I used my example. I had never had heartburn until 3 years ago when they prescribed me pregabalin, and then they prescribed me the heartburn medication because pregabalin gives you heartburn. So instead of finding a medication that does the same thing as pregabalin, no. They give me a heartburn medication. So one of the fundamental factors with healthcare systems is if you have 4 doctors, and even if those doctors are not in the same city, it's even worse. They don't collaborate. And with electronic documents now, you would think that this needs to be a thing. No, they don't. So this is where lesson 2 comes in. So you are your own best advocate. Self-advocacy has to become your superpower. So ways that you can self-advocate, ways that we can self-advocate, go into every single medical appointment that you have with a plan. Know that you only have 15 minutes in that medical appointment because that's all they give you. But go there with 4 things rated based on priority that you need to deal with when you're there. Because otherwise, if you go there, they can railroad you into talking only about one thing, and then you don't get to the rest of it. Figure out your paperwork. So this could be anything for applying for disability. In Canada, we have something called a disability tax credit. I have to do Veterans Affairs paperwork. All of that paperwork leads to a better life if you're able to fill it out properly and get properly recognized for what's going on with you. Unfortunately, people get lost in the woodwork, but Fat Girl Parkour is going to be one of those communities where we want to bring people together. Like, I was in the airport on the way here, and I met this lady who's in her 70s, and she's like, oh, my husband, he's been trying to get his Veterans Affairs paperwork done, but he doesn't know how because it's all electronic. So I'm like, well, here you go, here's my card, have him call me, and I will help him with his Veterans Affairs paperwork. Stuff like that. We all have things that we're good at. So let's bring them all together and help each other out. And then make sure that doctors properly document what your appointment was about. Get a copy of what the doctor writes down after each appointment. And then keep your own records. And then be relentlessly persistent. If there's something that is bothering you, don't give up on it. Don't just say, oh my God, they're not going to pay any attention to me. Keep going back. So, okay, I have videos here, which are amazing. So out of the struggle, Fat Girl Parkour was born. And this is where we want to dismantle the rules of fitness. I actually hate that word, fitness. That's why we choose to talk about capability instead. So here's the thing about traditional fitness culture. It's exclusive, it's intimidating, and it's deeply entangled with diet culture, ableism, and anti-fat bias. It's gross. So it tells us that movement is only valid if it fits a specific mold. Sweaty gym sessions, weight loss goals, and punishing routines. Gross. But what if we throw all of these rules out the window? We don't want them anymore. And we want to have a playful movement. Like, you want to be able to be adaptive and flexible and say, fun? So it's not about fitting into a certain size or achieving an arbitrary fitness goal. Instead, it's about becoming the most capable version of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. For me, being able to stand up here continually for this amount of time, I'm really proud of. Because maybe like 2 months ago, I wouldn't have had to sit down with it. So I've been gradually working my way up because I knew I wanted to do this, and I knew I wanted to stand. So that's where I am right now, and that was the capability that I worked on. So Fat Girl Parkour itself it's a playful nod to word parkour, right? And Fat Girl is just a label because I'm the fat girl. But it's inclusive to everyone. No matter what shape, size, gender, sexuality, we don't care, color, everything. It's open to everyone. So, because we're using that play with parkour, the obstacles aren't just physical. They're societal norms, internalized self-doubt, and systemic barriers. So, Fat Girl Parkour strips away the expectation to look and move a certain way. It's about finding joy in movement, embracing yourself where you're at right now, and rediscovering what your body can do, not what it can't. So, I'm going to start the video.
All right, Sweet Lifers, this is Fat Girl Parkour! It's okay to not be okay. I don't know how I'm gonna get down. My kinesiologist is gonna love this.
Well, the way that I do Fat Girl Parkour is I make fun of myself. If I can't do something, it's going to be something either I work towards or I don't think it's even worth doing. So that rope thing, I'm never doing it again. Ever. So lesson 3, where do we start to become and to change our brains so that we're ready to partake in Fat Girl Parkour? It's not working. There we go. So find a driver. What makes you want to be a more capable human? My driver was coming here and being able to stand through the whole thing. But in general, what I want to do is I don't want to pass out in crosswalks anymore. I think that's a great goal. And the way that I do that is by building up muscle tone and by, working on breathing through my disorientation and dizziness. It's something I'm working on, but it's my goal. Then you need to rewrite your definition of movement. This is where your community comes in. So instead of seeing fitness as a rigid program, you want to start looking for movement in unexpected places and take joy in the fact that you were able to partake in that. So it could be something like playing with your kids, dancing in your kitchen just for fun, or walking to your mailbox. Those are things that we take for granted because we can do them now. But the thing is like, maybe down the road you might not be able to, so congratulate yourself for being able to do it now. And that's the other thing, meet your body where it's at right now. So one of the hardest things I had to overcome was the fact that I wasn't a size 4, I wasn't 150 pounds anymore. And because of my chronic injuries, I was struggling to actually do anything or have the motivation to do it. So I had to accept that my body had changed, but that's okay. I have never been more myself than I am right now. So green hair, piercings, tattoos, that's just me. I wouldn't have been like that if I was miserable at 140 pounds. So your journey doesn't start at where you were, instead it starts at where you are now. So honor yourself. And then focusing on what feels good and not what looks good. That was me. So forget aesthetics. Forget arbitrary fitness milestones. And your real goal is finding movement that makes you feel capable, strong, and alive. So, capability. Throw out the word fitness and replace it with capability. So, and you can't do it without allies. So, the Sweet Life Flora Collective is myself, Bex at the back, and my friend Velta, who you'll see on our social media channel, which you all need to follow Sweet Life Flora, because we are absolutely ridiculous and we have so much fun together. Everyone needs people to help. And it just so happens that my people right now aren't fat, but it doesn't matter because they're my allies. So no one can do this alone, and that's where your allies come in. So allies for me they're my beacons of safety and support. I call them my emotional support humans. They can be any size, gender, or ability, but they share one goal, which is creating an inclusive space for movement. So we not only want to make the Fat Girl Parkour army ourselves, but we want to bring in allies as well, who, say for instance, you're at the gym and you don't know how to use a piece of equipment. Well, if you see Bex there wearing her Fat Girl Parkour ally, you know she's safe. You can go and talk to her and she will teach you how to use it properly and without injuring yourself. So that's my best example that I can give, but also these are people who you can go to who will offer advice. You can ask them about non-restrictive clothing at the gym, stuff that they know about that they can help you with, and they're willing to offer that support. So I feel very lucky that I have Velta and Bex, but the great thing is that I can be their ally too. So lesson 4 is find your community. And that's what we want Fat Girl Parkour to be for everyone. It's an online community. We can do this through Sweet Life Flora, so follow us on Instagram and everything, and we will be there for you. But find a local community too. Try to create a local Fat Girl Parkour community. I want you guys to take this and run in your own communities. Like, find your friends who don't mind, admitting that they're fat and saying that curse word. I'm fat. But that they want to understand that they can be more capable. So Fat Girl Parkour is more than a movement. That's supposed to be a joke. I'm not very funny. There we go. It's more than just a movement, it's a revolution. So it's not about burning calories or getting shredded. It's about rewriting the narrative around health and wellness to include everyone. So where everyone, regardless of their weight, disability, or background, can feel empowered to move, grow, and thrive. So because the ultimate goal is to be capable, happy human being that enjoys life. So I'm going to challenge you guys. So stop waiting for the right time to start. Number one, go out, get your group together, your Fat Girl Parkour group, support each other, go for a walk. If it's around the block, that's a great start. And then maybe you can move up to around 2 blocks. You know what I mean? Just start somewhere. So find that one way to move today that brings you joy. Just one. No rules, no pressure, nothing. And then join the conversation. So share your journey online. Like, let people know what you're doing and be so proud of where you're at. Like, honestly, just having this goal of me being able to stand up here, I'm so proud of myself right now. It's ridiculous. And because I came through like I call 2024 my dumpster fire year. This for me is huge, like absolutely huge. And you guys have been amazing.